the Arch Gaming Network is proud to bring you this board game review. Now here's your host, Sean Smith.
Hello and thank you for stopping by. Yes, we are taking a look at Dinosaur Island, which was designed by Jonathan Gilmour and Brian Lewis and published by Pandasaurus Games. Now, Dinosaur Island, the core mechanic, is a worker placement game. It's for 1 to 4 players, and the object of this game is that you're going to be building a theme park filled with dinosaurs. You are going to be trying to score the most victory points, and the main way to do that is to get the most people into your park so that they'll score you those points. And the way that you do that is increase the excitement of your park by researching DNA and creating bigger and better and more dinosaurs that will attract those visitors. But you have to watch out, because if you grow too fast, these dinosaurs may get loose and do horrible things to your patrons in the park.
Oh no.
So there's a lot to go over here, and so why don't we just hop right into the setup and how to play, and then I'll give you my thoughts on the other side. Okay, a round of Dinosaur Island is broken into 4 phases, and the boards are conveniently labeled phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, so you know where to concentrate. So I think the best way to talk about the setup and even go through the gameplay is to just walk through each of the phases, starting with the research phase. Right, the first thing you need to do is get the DNA dice out, and the start player will roll them, and then you can put them out in any order. It does not matter. All right, you are going to take 2 dice per player plus 1. So we're setting up here for a 3-player game. You also have 3 types of dinosaurs. You have herbivores, small carnivores, and large carnivores. And each of them have tiles signifying what they are. So you're going to take those and shuffle them and place them on their appropriate spot. And then you will turn over the top one of each stack. These will be the dinosaurs that are available during the research phase of this particular round. And now you have phase 1 set up. All right, phase 2 is the market phase. To set that up, you're going to take all these tiles that say under construction on them. These are upgrade tiles, okay? There's a bunch of different types. Anyway, any of them that have the 4+ players, you'll take out, because we're playing a 3+ player. Of course, anything with the 3+ would stay in. You shuffle them, and then you'll place them right here. You also have some attraction cards. So you have ride attractions, souvenirs, and food attractions or places. And you're going to shuffle those. Same thing. Some of them are marked with a 4+. Some are marked with a 3+. You just take out what you need, place those here. You have a bunch of specialist cards. Shuffle these and place them in their spot. You have 2 special research places. The Dino Research 2, which you can place there, and Refined DNA. Those can go right there. Now, for the first round, for setup, you're going to take the top 4 of these building tiles or attraction tiles, and you're going to place them out in these columns. You'll see, or rows. You'll see there's 4 rows. There's a $2, $3, $4, and a $5 row. So you're going to set them up, and then what you're going to do, these tiles have a cost listed right there. And you're going to place these in cost order, starting with the lowest cost all the way to the highest cost. Now all these are 3, so we're just going to set them just like this in that order. Now again, this is only for the setup. In subsequent round, when you're putting them out, you don't have to put them in order, but just know that when you do the market phase, if you wanted to buy this building, it costs you $3 plus the amount in the row. You're then going to take 4 upgrade tiles and just place those out. And you don't have to do anything with these. They just go out in the order. This is a 4-player. This needs to go. And we'll put that one out there. Next, you'll take 4 specialists. Place those in each row. Now, this isn't in the setup. This is just what we like to do. Every player is given, 4 workers to start the game. And then they're going to have 3 extra workers that they're not going to be using at the start of the game. We just like to put them right here. You don't have to. You can just put them on the side of the board. You cannot buy these workers. But for whatever reason, we've just like putting them there. So you can if you want. And that's how you set up the market phase, phase 2. Okay, now we'll set up our player board, which is phase 3. The first thing you're going to do is you have these black cubes. Over here on the left, you have your cold storage, your DNA cold storage. You have 3 slots for basic, 3 slots for advanced DNA. You have some squares here that are darkened. So you will be placing these black cubes in those particular spaces. This is the limit on what you can do with your store DNA at the beginning of the game. For each of your basic DNA, you're going to start at 1. So you put it in the first spot here above the 0. Each player will start with 0 of their advanced DNA. You have your faction tokens for Guild Corp, which is what we're playing as. You also have your scientists or researchers labeled numbered 1, 2, and 3. You can put those up at the top. Earlier I said that everybody starts with 4 workers. I'm a liar, I'm a liar. You get to start with 5 workers.
Correct.
You're then going to set your threat level and your security level both to 1. You're going to have a few pieces left over. These are going to go on the turn order board and the scoreboard, so we'll see that in a moment. Otherwise, you're done setting up your player board. Each player is going to get a phase 4 board. This is your theme park, your actual park. You're also going to get 1 dinosaur to start, and they can start right here in this paddock. All right. Each player is also going to get $15. Now, the starting player will start with 15, but each subsequent player will get 1 additional dollar. And that's it for your phase 4 setup. Okay, you'll set up the turn order board. We already said red's going first, then blue, then green. You will start, everyone starts on an excitement level of 1, and everyone starts with 10 victory points. The next thing you want to do is choose your objective cards. Now, objective cards come in 3 different types. You can play either a short game, a medium game, or a long game. I think we're going to play a medium game. So we will take a number of objectives equal to the number of players plus 1. So we would have 4 objectives that we would just set on the table, and we read these out to everybody. These objectives are going to be worth 7 points for completing. We'll go over those in a little bit. All right. You also have some plot twists here. These can do negative or positive things at the end of each round. You're going to choose 2 at random and return the rest to the box, and then you can reveal what they're going to be for that round. And we'll go over plot twists in a little bit. The last thing you need to do, besides you're going to put all the spare dinosaurs around the table, the money and that, is you also have these paddock. These are paddock tiles here. We'll zoom in a little bit on those. All right. So these are ways that you can get more dinosaurs onto a dinosaur tile. We'll see that later. But they're broken up, you'll see maybe a ×2 on some of them here. And then the other side is ×3. And then you have ×4. That means that this particular tile can hold 4 dinosaurs. All right, so this is it. When it's all set up, this is what you'd be looking at for a 3-player game. We have our phase 1, our research phase, phase 2, our market phase. Then down over here, we have our player board with everything set. We got our starting money. We're leaving a little space here for some specialists that can go in there. We have our park set up with 1 dinosaur. And again, There's a lot going on here, but the game is easy to learn, so let's just hop into that now. Alright, Dinosaur Island is played over an undefined number of rounds. The timer in the game are the objective cards that we talked about earlier, and again, we're doing the medium game. 3 players, we're going to draw 4 cards, again 1 card for each player plus 1. The way that the timer works is that if any time you are able to complete one of the objectives, you get to place one of your faction tokens on this card. Now, if another player can also claim this card, for example, this one is reach an excitement level of 15. If 2 players or more players can reach that excitement level of 15 all in the same phase of the same round, they can claim this. When all but one of these cards have been claimed, that's going to trigger the end of the game. You'll finish the round. You can still claim the one that's still not claimed, but the game will end at the end of that round. These again are worth 7 victory points, and again, only 1 player can complete them unless multiple players can do it during the same phase on the same round. So a round is broken into the 4 phases that we talked about in the setup. The first one is the research phase. The starting player is going to roll all the dice and then just place them up here in any order that they want. Okay, the order does not matter. Okay, these dice here are your DNA dice, and they're going to have different DNA symbols or maybe even some other symbols on them that you will be able to research during this phase. For example, you may have 1 basic DNA or 2 basic DNAs, or this one's 2 wild DNA. Then you might have an advanced DNA, a wild advanced DNA, and then depending on the game, the dice that are in your game, you may have one of these that'll let you increase your paddock capacity or give you an additional worker when you claim these dice. I'll talk about more how those work in a minute. So on your turn, what you do is you take one of your 3 scientists. So let's say I take this number 2 here. I can assign it to any one of these dice. Now there's a space down here for you to claim them. We found it's easier just to place them right there on top. So let's say I wanted to increase my advanced DNA. After all, I don't have any advanced DNA. It's all at 0. So maybe I put this 2 on this wild advanced DNA. All right, what this allows you to do is gain a number of DNA based on the number of the scientists that you used. You'll notice some of them have 1 DNA symbol, some might have multiple DNA symbols. What you get to do is take the number of symbols on the die face times the worker that you, or the scientist that you used, and you get that much DNA. So if I put 2 on the wild, I could choose any 2 wild DNA and move those up. I could have taken this 2 and put it on this kind of this pink one here, all right? And that would allow me to increase, instead of this, I could go up 4 because it's 2 times the 2 DNA symbols on there and move up 4. But the problem is I can only hold 3. These cubes here, these black cubes, limit how much DNA you can have in cold storage. So another thing that you can do, instead of, say, increasing your DNA, is you could use a scientist to come over to these spots and increase your cold storage limits. By using a 2, I'm able to take any 2 black cubes and increase them either 1, 2 times or 2 1 times. I can break it up however I want. Maybe I do something like that. I could also increase that instead if I wanted to. Now real quickly, on these special ones that have the paddock and the extra worker, if you want to claim that, you have to use your number 3 scientist to do that. You don't get to take that action 3 times. Just know that you have to use a 3. Again, we'll talk about what those do in a minute. The next thing you can do is research a dinosaur. So using the scientist, you see you have 1, 2, and 3. Your scientist has to be at or above the level of where you are wanting to research. So if I wanted this herbivore, I could put my 2 on the 1 and take this, okay? I could take this because it's equal to, but I could not use my 2 to take the large carnivore. I would need my number 3 scientist to do that. So let's say I went ahead and I took this particular dinosaur tile, okay? Just know that these are first come, first serve. So once one is taken, the next one is not turned over until the next round. Also, when you take these tiles, you immediately place it into your park. That's the phase 4 board. All right, so for example, I could just, place it right here just like that, okay? I have no limit of where I can place them. Now, I don't have any dinosaurs here. This is just allowing me to research. This board is broken into a grid. The lines mean nothing. You're allowed to place them anywhere. You just can't cover up anything that was already existing. And once you place a tile, it is there for the rest of the game. And anytime you take one of these tiles, if you don't have at least one dinosaur in it at the end of the game, it's minus 10 points. Now, these tiles tell you a number of things. First of all, it tells you what kind of dinosaur it is, but it also tells you what DNA you're going to need to spend later in phase 3 to create a dinosaur of this type. So in this case, I would need one of the light blue, one of the pink, and these are both basic DNA. Then I would need a green and a yellow advanced DNA, spending them from your cold storage to be able to create this dinosaur. It also tells you that you can store one dinosaur. That's what this 1 times is right here. You can only store one. You can upgrade the paddocks. We'll see that later. Also, it tells you the excitement level. So for every dinosaur that you create, your excitement level is going to go up 2 points. That's important because depending on what your excitement level is, that's how many people are going to come to your park. At the end of the game, it's also going to tell you for every dinosaur you have in here, and you can have up to 4, provided you've upgraded everything and you've created 4 dinosaurs. Each dinosaur is going to be worth 4 victory points at the end of the game. The 2 dots here, that also tells you the threat level for each dinosaur that you build of this type. We'll talk all about the threat levels and all that in a moment. Now, the last thing you can do is just pass, and any number of players can do this. So if you decide to pass, you can just turn this over and place it up here, okay? And it will get to act as an additional worker during phase 3, the worker placement phase, where you are kind of creating everything for your park. Players will take turns placing one of their scientists per round until everyone has run out of their scientists or have passed. Once that's done, you're going to take a look at the dice that weren't taken. So if we had some of these taken here and whatnot, and let's say this die was left over. Okay, well let's say these 3 dice were left over. Okay, let's say these 4 were taken. What you're going to do is you're going to look at these little purple dots that are on here. All right, whichever die has the most purple dots, you're going to take that and place it over here in the threat level. It's either going to be 1, 2, or 3. And it doesn't matter if there are multiple dice, like this also has 2. It doesn't matter. You just place one of them over here. That will be important during phase 4. Anyway, that is how you do the research phase. All right, after the research phase, you'll do the market phase, starting with the start player. Each player is going to have 2 chances to buy from the market. One of the first things you can do is buy one of these buildings. All right, like I said earlier, there are 3 types of buildings. You have rides, souvenirs, and food. All right, these tiles have a cost, a base cost. So this Tex-Mex or Rex-Mex here costs 3 plus the amount that is indicated by the row here. All right, so this one would cost 5, 6, 7, and this one, which is stuffed dinos, will cost you 14. Now, the reason why you would want to build buildings, there's a few reasons. One of them is because they could allow you to increase the capacity of your park. All right. This one allows you to bring 2 more people into your park. You want to make sure you have enough room for everybody in your park as you build up your excitement level. Some of them, like this one, gives you just straight up victory points, 5 victory points at the end of the game. Now, you may want to buy some. Some might think, well, why would I want, the stuff dino place? Like, it's just victory points. Well, victory points are important, but you can't store anybody there. Well, that could be because of objective cards. So, for example, we talked about the one of them, which was to reach an excitement level of 15. Well, we have some other ones here, like create dinosaurs of 3 different species. Don't count the starting dinosaur species. Fill all but 4 zones in your park. But then there is one here that we have, one of our 4, is build 1 attraction of each type, a food, a merchandise, and a ride. So if you wanted to complete this objective, you will need to build 1 of each type. Now, food places are interesting. Not only do they allow you to add additional people, but this symbol here tells you that at the end of the round, and this will make more sense later, but at the end of the round, when you're collecting victory points for all patrons in your park, you can decide to take either money or the victory points, and only the food tiles will allow you to do that. So if I were to buy this, I would just take it, I would place it into my park. Can't cover up anything that was already there, and once you place it, it is permanent. The next thing you can do is buy an upgrade. If we look at your player board here, you have 6 spots where you're going to be placing your workers in phase 3. 2 of them are empty, they're under construction, so you can immediately start upgrading those spots. Okay, by doing that, you can buy one of these upgrades. For example, this is gain any 1 advanced DNA, exchange 1 or 2 DNA for 1 or 2 other DNA of the same rarity. This one is the exact same. Terrible setup on my part. Ugh. And then this one, if you ever see a green tile like this is usually just a one-time bonus, but you do need to place it into your laboratory here. You can cover them up later, but this one will give you just a one-time bonus of an additional specialist that you can hire. So let's say I wanted this, I would pay $3 because it's in that row, and then I can place it onto my board like this to give me an extra space. Again, you can cover up any of these spaces if you want, but you start with 2 empty ones, so you might as well use them. You cannot cover up these 2 spaces, all right? Those spaces can be upgraded using these 2, and this costs 3, and it's creating 1 dinosaur, or this one, which is the refined DNA, that go with the create and refine DNA. These upgrades, so we'll talk about this in phase 3, but during phase 3 here, you can create dinosaurs. In a round, you could create 2 dinosaurs. The first one's gonna cost you 1 worker, the second one's gonna cost you 2 additional workers, but if you've upgraded, you can now create up to 3, and each one costs 1 worker to do. So it's a helpful little upgrade. There is only 1 per player here. I did set out 4 by accident. You can only buy 1 of these per game, meaning 1 of these and 1 of these. The next thing you can do is hire a specialist. Now, specialists are generally going to give you an ongoing benefit. So, for example, this one says, once per round, increase your cold storage limits by 1 for a single DNA type. So, looking again at the player board here, your limits, you can increase one of the black cubes up once per round using that specialist. In addition, if a specialist has this symbol on it, you're going to get an extra worker. So I could take one of these workers, place them with the rest of them, and now I would have an additional worker for phase 3. You would take this card and put it on the side of the board, your phase 3 board where it says specialists. You can have 3 specialists during the game. Of course, as we already saw, there may be some tiles in here that allow you to hire, an additional specialist. If you ever wanted to hire more than 3, or you wanted to hire a different specialist, you can do so, but you have to get rid of one of them. And if you get rid of one that has that symbol on it, you have to give the worker back as well. The next thing you can do is buy DNA. So for $2, I can buy any 2 basic DNA. For $5, I can gain any 2 advanced DNA. Whenever you take this action, you have to discard something from this row. So if I paid the 5, maybe I get rid of this specialist here. You're fired! Now the last thing you can do is pass, and if you pass, you get 2 money. You can pass on your first turn, because remember everyone gets 2 turns. You can pass on the first turn, get the $2, and when it comes back to you for the second turn or round, or second time around, you can then use that $2 to buy something in the market. All right, after everyone has had 2 turns at the market, we'll now move to phase 3, the worker placement phase. Now, everyone will start with 5, but because during the market phase, we picked up an extra worker here, we are starting with 6. And this specialist here says, 1 less visitor is eaten in your park each round. My goodness, how many people are going to get eaten? Regardless, this round can be done simultaneously. All players can do it at the same time. And now I'll walk you through an example of what we're going to do here. Our goal is that we want to increase our security a little bit, and we want to create a dinosaur. We're going to create this dinosaur here. It requires a blue, a pink, and then a green and a yellow advanced DNA. Now, when we do create this dinosaur, our threat level is going to go up by 2.
Don't be scared.
Also, we need to keep in mind that during the phase 1, during the research phase, we had this die here with the 2 purple dots. This means that the threat level is going to be a +2 during this round. We haven't talked about threat levels yet and security levels, but those are taken over here. The red is the threat level. This is how dangerous your park is. Every time you create a dinosaur, the threat level is going to go up in your park. And added to that, you're going to have that die that was left over from phase 1. We're at a threat level 1 because everybody started with 1 dinosaur, a small dinosaur, but it had a threat level of 1, and everyone's security level is a level 1. So we already know that the threat level is going to be at least 3 this round, because that die is going to add a +2 to wherever our current threat level is. Plus, we're planning to build or create a dinosaur, which is going to increase it again. So we're going to have to pay attention to that. Luckily, we have a tool bench here that will allow us to increase our security. So what are these worker placement spots? Well, the first one you have is the refined DNA. You can use 1 worker to go here, and it allows you to turn in 2 basic DNA for a particular advanced DNA. All right? We don't have any advanced DNA. I think we're going to have to use this spot. We already said we want to create a dinosaur, so we're going to do that as well. If we wanted to create 2 dinosaurs this round, we would have to use 2 more workers on this spot, but we're not going to do that this turn. Now, the tool bench allows you to upgrade your paddock capacity or increase your security level by 1. We talked earlier that these tiles here can hold 1 dinosaur. And if you want to hold more, you're going to have to use a worker to go here and then pay to upgrade. If you're at a level 1 paddock, you can upgrade to a level 2 paddock for $2, all right? If you wanted to go from a level 2 to a level 3, then you'd have to pay $3, and I bet you can guess how much you have to pay to go to a level 4, which is the maximum. So you cannot skip. You can't go straight from a level 1 to a level 4 by paying 4. You have to pay the 2 first, then the 3, and so on. Now, this space is unlimited, which means you can do it any number of times that you want during the turn. But it is important to note, you must use a worker for each time you want to do whatever that action is. So if I did want to increase my paddock from a 1 to a 3, I would need 1 worker and $2 to increase it to a level 2, and then another worker and $3 to increase it to a level 3. But we're not even going to do this because we have space on our board. We need more security. Now, security works the same way. Again, it's unlimited, but to increase your security level from level 1 to level 2, it's going to cost you 1 coin. If you wanted to do it again, you're going to need another worker, and then to go from 2 to 3, it costs you 2 coins, and then 3 coins up here, 4 to go from 7 and 8, 9 and 10 is 5. And if at any point you need a security level higher than a 10, there are tokens that you can place on here, and then you just start back over here on the 1, but it'll cost you 5 every time you continue to increase your security level. All right, this space here is your bank. It's the venture capital spot. When you go here, you place a worker in here, you get 3 money. If you place another worker, you get 2 money, and then 1 money. But in our world of this tutorial, we have plenty of money for this step. Just know that when you're doing these steps, you can do them in any order that you want. So if you needed money to pay for a security upgrade or a paddock increase, you can do that by going to the bank, taking the money, and then paying for the other stuff as well. This space here, these are 2 upgrades that we bought during the market phase. This is to exchange 1 or 2 DNA for 1 or 2 other DNA of the same rarity. We're going to do that, and we're going to gain any 1 advanced DNA as well. We could do this a second time, but we would need 2 workers. Once you've decided how you want to allocate your workers, you can start doing the actions. So we're going to refine DNA. I find it's easy just to kind of lay these down. And I'm going to spend 1 blue and 1 of the purple here to gain 1 green advanced DNA. We're going to go ahead and increase our security level twice, which is going to cost me 1 coin and then 2 coins. So for 3 coins total, we can increase it to there. Next, I'm going to exchange 1 DNA for 1 of the same rarity. I am going to go ahead and looking at our dinosaur here, we need a light blue right there DNA, and we don't have any right now. So I'm going to go ahead and spend this purple here to gain that light blue. We're going to gain 1 advanced DNA. I need a yellow one to create my dinosaur, so I will do that there. And now I'm ready to create my dinosaur. Again, it takes a blue, a pink, a green, and a yellow. So I will just spend these like so. And now I'm able to put a dinosaur on that spot. Now, because the dinosaur is a threat level 2, so I put my little dinosaur right there. The first thing I'm going to do is on the excitement track that's on the scoreboard, I'm going to increase the excitement level by 2. But I'm also going to increase my threat level by 2 as well by increasing that like so. Once everyone has finished phase 3, then we will move on to phase 4, which is the park phase. All right, after everyone is done with phase 3, we'll move on to phase 4, which is the park phase. Starting with the start player, players are going to draw customers out of this bag equal to their excitement level. Now, if we take a look at the excitement board here, we are at excitement level 5. Now, before you start flooding the comments section, if you have a keen eye, you will notice that we don't actually have a level 5 excitement because we have 1 of these tame dinosaurs and 1 of these. These 2 things give us an excitement level of 3. However, for the tutorial, we're going to go with level 5. So just know that going in. So we've reached in and we've grabbed out these 5 customers. Now, the purple ones are hooligans. They're non-paying troublemakers. And then you have the regular patrons here. Now, when you draw them, you're going to place them outside of the park. Now, the hooligans will butt in line and they will go to the front of the line. Now, as you will notice also, I've grabbed 6, but we only have an excitement level of 5, so I will put the other one back into the bag. After everyone has drawn their customers out, you're going to get 1 coin for each of your paying customers. So in this case, we would get 4 of our 4 money for having 4 patrons. After you've done that, you're going to place them into the park. Now, hooligans go in first. That stinks. So we're just going to send them here to this hat stand, okay? And we'll just lay them down right there. You can place patrons wherever, you have this symbol here. But don't be confused. These dinosaur things have 4 symbols on them. But you can't place 4 patrons here. The easiest way to remember this is that you can place 1 patron in a dinosaur area for every dinosaur that you have. So I could place 1 here and 1 here. And that means these 2 cannot come in.
No way.
Now, once everyone has placed their customers, you're now going to check your security level based on your threat level here, compared to your threat level. And if it is equal to or greater than the threat, your security level is greater to or equal than your threat level, then you're safe, all right? But as in our case, if you remember earlier in the tutorial, there was this die that's adding a +2 to our threat this round. Okay, so that means technically or realistically our threat level is a 5, our security level is a 3. That means that 2 patrons are going to get eaten.
No!
Oh no! That's unfortunate. What's even more unfortunate is that hooligans will not get eaten because they're sneaky and they don't taste good. So we will lose 2 of our patrons. However, we have a specialist, and that says 1 less visitor is eaten in your park each round. So instead of losing 2, we're just going to lose 1, and he's going to go. Now, if I didn't have that card, then both of the patrons would have gotten eaten. And if your threat level was even higher than the number of patrons that are left in the park, then the dinosaur breaks out and starts eating the people that are in line. For every patron that gets eaten, you're going to lose 1 victory point. So on the victory point track, we would have lost 1 patron for this. Any remaining patrons in the park, not out here, you're going to get a victory point. But remember, we talked about earlier, if you had a food stand, for example, if we had this in here, instead of taking the victory point, if we'd had a patron here, we could instead take 2 money, okay? All right, after you've allocated the victory points, that ends phase 4. We now move on to the cleanup phase. All right, during the cleanup phase, you're going to just take all of the meeples, the customer meeples, and you're just going to throw them back into the bag. All the customers have gone home for the day. You're then going to take your workers here, and you can place them back up here at the top to be used for the next round. You're also going to get your scientists back from the phase 1 board, the research board. You're going to take a look at the player board here, and the way you're going to set up the turn order for the next round is whoever's in last gets to be the first player. And then whoever is in like second player or second to last goes second, and green player is in first place, so they will go last. So it's a variable turn order each round. During the cleanup phase, you're going to take anything that was in the $2 row, you're going to discard them. Then you're going to move everything up, all right, as high as they can go. And then you're going to restock the market here. Again, you don't have to, on these building tiles, you don't have to resort them in monetary value order. That's just during the setup. You can put out some new tiles here and put out the specialists. You're going to give all the dice to the start player. You'll then turn over the top tile of any dinosaur that had been taken on the last round. The start player is going to roll the dice again, and of course they'll just place them up here at random. You're also going to, actually I guess before you were to roll these, you're going to resolve your plot twists. In our example here, each player can gain 1 advanced DNA at the end of each round. That's pretty nice. And then this card here allows each player to either increase their security level, upgrade a paddock, or gain any 2 basic DNA at the end of the round. And that's for free. Of course, before you go through all that trouble of setting up the new round, you are going to check the objective cards. And if anyone, if 3, in this case, if all but 1 had been already claimed, the game would have ended at the end of that round. Otherwise, you'll now start a new round going through the different phases: your research phase, your market phase, your worker placement phase, your park phase. Again, trying to increase your excitement by building those and creating those dinosaurs, but making sure that your park is safe, sound, and secure so that those poor patrons don't get eaten, which is kind of odd because I don't think herbivores would eat patrons, but whatever. That is how you play Dinosaur Island. Okay, so that is Dinosaur Island. Now, let's talk about the components in this game. The components are just fabulous. They're amazing components. Even in the retail version, which is what I showed you and what I have, Pandasaurus I almost said Pandasaurus Express, and now I have said it, but Pandasaurus Games, who published Wasteland Express,
nailed it.
If you've played that game or are familiar with it, the components in that game were just unbelievable. And then they followed that up with Dinosaur Island, which again just has some fantastic components in it. Now the cardboard components and the cards in it are good quality. They're not over the top, but they are good quality, should hold up well. But the artwork is really great. You have something that sets it apart are the plastic dinosaurs. Those pink plastic dinosaurs. Now they're all the same shape, and most people who see this, they're not going to have the Kickstarter version that had multiple different types of dinosaurs. But these, even in the retail version, are fantastic. Also, the worker placement board. I've had a number of people who have picked up that worker placement board and seen all the notches for the DNA cold storage and the security levels, and they'll say, "Oh, is this the Kickstarter version?" I'm like, "No, this was the retail version." And they're impressed, and I was impressed. I am so happy that they put that into that worker placement board, to put those notches in there, because otherwise, you could easily bump those cubes around if you didn't have that in there. And so, I give them, extra credit for making the board like that and even putting that in the retail version. The only thing I would say about the components is probably the color scheme. I know what they were going for, and it's the 90s feel, the 90s color scheme and all that. I get it. It's not my taste, but it certainly gets people talking about it because it is so interesting. And again, thematic to the 90s, when maybe that other particular movie might have come out that this game is not based on. Anyway, the colors are fine. Like I said, not my cup of tea, but that doesn't really detract from the gameplay at all. In fact, about the gameplay, I like the variability in the length and the wind conditions. So you have the short, medium, and long game that you can decide to play. Now, personally, I would never play the short. I've played the short, and it just ends way too quickly. I guess if you were introducing this to somebody and you had, or a group, and you had very limited time, you could play a short game to kind of introduce them and then, see if they liked it and move them on to a medium or long game. But I prefer doing the long game most of the time, medium game sometimes. But I like the various win conditions. So the objective cards are different, so that each game you may have to focus on different areas to complete those objectives. I think there are a lot of interesting choices in how you build your park so that you can, meet those different objectives. And there's a delicate balance in the game between, managing your resources like your money, your DNA, your security levels, the paddocks, a tight economy there, wanting to make sure that you get just enough money, or not just enough money, but to have the money you need to be able to do and combo the different things that you want to do during the worker placement phase. There's a very good, very excellent balance there that makes you want to have efficient turns every round to try to grab those objectives before somebody else, because they are first come, first serve. There is a catch-up mechanism built into the game via the turn order, and I think that was a good choice. It does make you sometimes think, do you want to build that one more dinosaur this round? Because if you do, you're probably going to be ahead in the victory points, but then you have to go first or last. So if you have the most victory points, you go last during the round, which means you have last choice of the DNA dice or the dinosaurs or at the market. So there's a kind of a nice balance there. It does help the people who are behind by helping them to be able to pick the best cards or dice or whatever first, and it seems to really work well. Now, if I had any negative thing, and it's really not even that negative, it's just that the way the game ends. So you'll be playing rounds, and you'll be looking at the objective cards, and you'll be playing several rounds, and nobody's completing the objective cards because you just can't. And then all of a sudden, it seems like 2 or 3 of those objective cards get completed in one round. And the next thing you know, the game ends. And you never really quite want it to end. You feel like you're just getting the part going, and somebody hits that last objective to trigger the end of the game. And I guess that's partially a good thing, when you want a game to last a little longer. You don't quite want it to end because you feel like you have just a little more that you want to do. But that's kind of how the game feels. It kind of feels like it just ends. Whether I played the medium or the long game, and certainly the short game, it's always kind of felt the same, that you're just getting going, and then a bunch of objectives get completed, and then the game ends up being over, and you wish you had a little more time. Again, it's really not that negative. It's just sometimes it catches you off guard, and you're not quite prepared for it. But, that does mean you need to kind of pay attention to what everyone else is doing, just kind of keeping an eye on it. A lot of times the game's a little solitary-ish, because you really are just concentrating on your DNA, your workers, your upgrades, your specialists, and how your theme park is going, where you want to watch what other people are doing and grabbing too, and maybe how close they're getting to the different objective cards. As far as teaching the game or the ease of play, there's a lot going on here, so there's a lot to go over when you're teaching the game. But something that I think was smart was labeling each of the boards phase 1 through 4. Because I found when I'm teaching the game, and I've taught this game multiple times, it is very helpful to say, we're going to start in phase 1, we're going to move to phase 2, and so on, and just talk through each phase one at a time. And that way, it feels like you're kind of teaching it in smaller chunks, because when you have it all set up on the table, as you saw during the tutorial, there's a lot there that, someone might walk up and go, whoa, but, breaking it into those phases really helps out. And once somebody plays a round of the game, they're pretty much set. I've not really had anybody ever have difficulty, after going through, say, one round. Now, Pandasaurus Games does have an expansion that will be coming out. Their Kickstarter just recently ended, and I am really looking forward to this. They also have a 2-player game that is also coming out. I'm not sure when those will hit retail, but I'm really excited to see what these things add to the game. But overall, I just really love playing Dinosaur Island, and I give this game a 9. Now, if you've enjoyed this review, please hit the thumbs up button below, subscribe to our channel, leave a comment, tell me what you think of Dinosaur Island, and once again, I thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for visiting the Arch Gaming Network. For more great content, check us out at archgamingnetwork.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook.